Well, good morning. I'm Marta Czurylowicz, joined by Chris Murphy. And Chris, I don't know if you felt this, but I feel like it's just been damp and musty and cloudy the last, I don't know, few weeks. But it doesn't seem like I'm the only one that feels that. It looks like this is happening across the country. Here's Tyler with more on when we could potentially see that sunshine.
Oh yeah, I'm at the point where, give me cold, just sunshine, as opposed to day after day of the overcast conditions. So Marta, I'm going to ask you, are you doing anything yourself to, say, combat for the lack of the natural vitamin D?
Honestly, I've been taking vitamins since the start of this pandemic. Vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm getting, my dose of vitamin D.
Throw some food in there, like salmon, herring, mackerel, yum yum. Eggs is good too for all of that. All right, I want to show you a couple places here where we're going to see a decided lack of vitamin D.
Well, all that cold air is remaining to the north, keeping, Canada fairly mild, and you'll see that across the country with temperatures. But let's start off in the east, where there's a blocking pattern, and it's keeping a lot of that active weather in through the Atlantic. Newfoundland will see that snow and rain, and here's just a quick look at that. Areas could see more than 60 centimeters of that snow, so it's definitely going to be snowy and rainy for parts of Newfoundland and Cape Breton. And that's the story in the west as well. Just some snow and rain continuing for Wednesday. Thursday looks to be a break, but again, the winds will be a story. There will be strong gusts on the northern shore of BC. And let's take a quick look at those temperatures across the country. As I mentioned, fairly mild across Canada. Well, good morning. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning. Let's talk about the temperatures for Toronto on Wednesday afternoon. 1 degree feels like -4, which is right around seasonal. Should be feeling closer to -2. So that's where we're at for temperatures in Toronto. When we're looking at the precipitation forecast, not much in the way of anything really happening through the GTA. You can see just in extreme southwestern Ontario, just some of those maybe potential for some of those light flurries. But again, more of a cloudy day, just like yesterday. However, there will be the peaks of that sunshine. And then tomorrow looks to be the chance for seeing most of that sun. Now, when we're looking at the GTA, same across the board, just fairly mild temperatures. We're right around seasonal for this time of year, as I mentioned, which is closer to -2. And not much when we're working with moisture. This ridge is really blocking anything that's happening that low as well east, so it's not really impacting southern Ontario, but you could see that in the temperatures across the board: Toronto, Barrie, Hamilton, and Oshawa. Now, during this pandemic, a lot of people turned to pets to improve their mental health. A lot of people even got new pets as additions to their family. Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Just want to take the time for those who are celebrating or follow the Julian calendar. Today is Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas to all those people celebrating. Let's take a look at the precipitation forecast for Ontario. Not much in the way of anything really happening, just some chance of some slight little flurries and maybe some drizzle in through extreme southwestern Ontario. But for the most part, that high is really keeping things, dry through Ontario. Now, that also means mild conditions. We're looking at this afternoon across the board. 2 degrees for Toronto, 2 in Mississauga, 2 in Oakville as well. Should be closer to -2. It feels like -1, so we're right on, bang on for the temperature for this time of year. Again, as I mentioned, it's 2 degrees. Wednesday afternoon in Toronto feels like -3. Now, when we're talking about cloud cover, yesterday was a really dreary day. We had some of that freezing drizzle, just not very nice weather. But today, it's looking like a chance of seeing some of that sun peeking through, and tomorrow on Thursday looking like the best chance for seeing that sunshine. And a little bit later in the week, Friday overnight, we're seeing some of that Arctic air dip down, and it could get into the GTA. We're probably going to see some of the coldest temperatures, looking like -8 overnight. And you can see that here, an example in Markham on Friday, -8, as I mentioned. But the coldest night we've seen so far has been around -9. So there is potential for this being the coldest night. We'll keep you posted here on the Weather Network. And let's take a quick look at that 7-day forecast forecast for Toronto, right around seasonal and looking clear for the most part. Now let's talk about 2 tornadoes that touched down in Northern California. Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us here this morning. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Eve, of course, for those who follow the Julian calendar. I myself am Ukrainian, so I will be having a nice feast tonight, and tomorrow is our Christmas. So again, Merry Christmas to all of those celebrating. Let's talk a little bit about temperatures in through the GTA. For Toronto, Wednesday afternoon, 2 degrees, feels like -3, which is right around seasonal for this time of year. It should be closer to -2. So we're bang on when it comes to temperatures. And across the board, across the GTA, you could see temperatures as well. 2 degrees for Mississauga and 2 in Oakville. So looking like a fairly nicer day than yesterday. Now, when we're talking about the precipitation forecast, there isn't much precipitation going on. You could see just some of those blue streamers in extreme southwestern Ontario, and that's just a chance for some of those flurries and some maybe light drizzle, but nothing else in the way of precipitation. We have that high that's really keeping things dry in through southern Ontario, and just a zoomed out look of Ontario, really just in through the border there for Manitoba and Ontario, where you could see some of those flurries, but not much in the way of precipitation anywhere else. When we're talking about cloud cover, there is the chance for a cloudy day again today. Yesterday, of course, was dreary, gloomy, drizzly, wet throughout southern Ontario, but today, there is a chance for some of that sunshine peeking through, and tomorrow is looking like the best day of catching that sunshine. Now let's take a quick look at some areas across the GTA, Barrie, Hamilton, and Oshawa. You could see in the evening on Friday, that's where we could see our colder temperatures. And then let's take another look at Kitchener, Markham, Burlington, and Pickering for their 3-day forecast. Now, here's a story about the return of the rockfish in British Columbia. Well, good morning. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Network on Wednesday morning. Let's talk about the precipitation forecast for Ontario. Not much in the way of anything really spectacular happening in through extreme southwestern Ontario. You could see some of those flurries coming on through, maybe the chance of some of that drizzle as well, but that's really it for southern Ontario in terms of active weather. Really going to be a clear day, and when we say clear, I don't mean clear of cloud. It still will be cloudy, not like yesterday. Yesterday was fairly dreary and gloomy. Today, you will have the chance of seeing some of that sunshine peeking through, but when we're talking about temperatures, we're right at the seasonal mark. We're right where we're supposed to be. Wednesday afternoon in Toronto, 2 degrees, feels like -3. Should be closer to -2 for this time of year, so like I said, bang on. And across the GTA, well, similar story, 2 degrees for most of the GTA, Mississauga, Oakville included. Yeah, so right around seasonal for this time. Now, when we're talking about the cloud cover forecast, we're talking about some breaks today, but tomorrow is looking like a fairly nice day as well. When we're talking about no precipitation and just really lack of cloud tomorrow. So best chance of seeing that sun tomorrow. Now, overnight, Friday into Saturday, you could see that purple. It's coming on down, which is colder air, and you could see making its way into Toronto. So it is going to be slightly colder overnight. However, nothing that's abnormal. That is right around seasonal for this time of year. Look at that. You could see in Barrie -9. That's what we're talking about for overnight temperatures on Friday into Saturday. But for the most part, pretty nice still. Nothing to complain about. Kitchener, Markham, Burlington, and Pickering. We still have that 3-day forecast as well, and looking fairly seasonal across the board. As I mentioned, it's just that chance of that cooler air really sinking down from the Arctic for Friday night into Saturday. So let's talk about that 7-day forecast. As I mentioned, really nice across the board for Toronto. And when I say nice, I mean seasonal temperatures. We're talking about 0 degrees on Saturday. And when we're looking at the precipitation forecast, not much in the way of snow or rain or anything really for the forecast. And let's take a quick look at Mississauga. Well, same thing. We are neighbors to Toronto, in fact. So Etobicoke, Toronto, you know, same thing for temperatures across the board. 0 on Saturday. Not much in the way of precipitation. I want to draw your attention again to Friday and Saturday, where we see that -8 rather. So nothing abnormal, right around seasonal for this time of year. And of course, we love seeing your photos and videos, so you can share that with me on Twitter at Marta Czur or at the Weather Network online.
Very glad you could join us on the Weather Network. Marta Czurylowicz and Chris Murphy with you. It is Wednesday, January the 6th, and there was some wicked weather on our west coast yesterday, and we're talking about rain and snow, but especially those winds. And Mia Gordon has a dramatic recap.
Well, Chris, as Mia said, some gusts up to 150 kilometers per hour, but I understand we have some totals. Why don't you take us through what were some of the windiest places?
Well, we'll start in the south where, again, Marta, likely 10 meters high.
But we're also talking about lots of snow that fell, which is kind of good news. It's a positive in this negative that was happening. Good news for skiers heading to the ski hills.
Yeah, I think we got some video here to share with you.
Hi there, happy Wednesday. I'm Marta Czurylowicz for the Weather Network. Thanks for joining us here this morning. Let's talk a little bit about the precipitation forecast for Ontario. Not much in the way of anything happening. Really, we have a high that's really protecting Ontario. Just in through extreme southwestern Ontario, we had the chance for some of those flurries and maybe some of that drizzle as well. But for the GTA, looking fairly clear. Just looking at those temperatures, right around seasonal for this time of year, should be closer to -2. And that's really what it feels like. Feels like -3 in Toronto on Wednesday afternoon, 2 degrees. And let's talk a little bit about those forecast conditions through the GTA. Much of the same, 2 degrees in Mississauga, 2 degrees in Oakville, and as I already mentioned, 2 degrees in Toronto. Now, yesterday was a gloomy, dreary day, and it was drizzly and wet. Today, not so much. There is a chance for some of that sunshine to peek on through Wednesday. Tomorrow, though, looking like a better chance to see more of that sunshine. Not abundant by any means, but definitely better than what we've been seeing the last few days. I do want to talk a little bit about some cold that is dipping down from the Arctic, and it's reaching all the way down to the GTA, but it's not abnormal for this time of year. It should be closer to -8, -9 overnight, and that's exactly what we see Friday night into Saturday. Toronto, Barrie, Hamilton, and Oshawa. Now it is time for my favorite segment. Here is Chris Murphy with Share Your Weather. Hi there, happy Wednesday. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Network. Let's talk about the conditions. The temperature for Toronto Wednesday afternoon, 2 degrees. Feels like -3, and that is right around seasonal. For this time of year, it should be closer to -2, so we are bang on in terms of temperatures. And, well, right across the board, it is the same story. Mississauga, Oakville, really feeling 2-3 degrees, right just above that freezing mark. Now, when we're talking about moisture, there isn't much in the way through Ontario. You could see this ridge of high pressure really protecting Ontario from this low that is affecting the Atlantic. Now, there is a chance for some of those flurries in through extreme southwestern Ontario. You can see here in Windsor, there's a chance of that drizzle and some of those flurries as well. But for the GTA, looking like a fairly dry day as that high pressure really protects. Now, yesterday was gloomy, dreary, wet through the GTA. Today, there is a chance for some of that sunshine to peek on through, and Thursday is looking to be like the nicest day. Now, I do want to talk about some cooler temperatures that are on their way. This Arctic air really sinking down into the GTA Friday night into Saturday. Lots of people added some new members to their family over the pandemic. Well, happy Wednesday. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Network. Just wanted to take a quick moment to wish those that follow the Julian calendar Merry Christmas. Today, of course, is Christmas Eve, and tomorrow is Christmas. So to all those that are celebrating, Merry Christmas. Now, the temperatures for Toronto Wednesday afternoon, 2 degrees, feels like -3, which is bang on for seasonal. It should feel like -2, so that's where we're at. Across the GTA, similar temperatures. We're looking at 2 degrees in Mississauga, 2 to 3 degrees down in Oakville. And when we're looking at moisture. Not much in the way to work with. You see this system out in the east, this high pressure really keeping that system out of Ontario, and there is a slight chance for some of those flurries in through extreme southwestern Ontario. We can see that here in Windsor with that rain and snow icon down in through extreme southwestern Ontario, but in the GTA looking fairly clear. Now when I say clear, I don't mean clear of clouds, I do mean clear of precipitation. Yesterday was very gloomy, wet weather, wasn't very nice. Today we will see some of those peaks of sunshine, and tomorrow, Thursday, looking like the best day to see that sunshine. Now I do want to talk about temperatures dipping overnight Friday into Saturday, and you can see this cold Arctic air making its way down into the GTA. Don't be scared though, this is normal for this time of year. It should be closer to -8, -9 in through areas in through the GTA. You can see that here Friday overnight, -8 in Markham. Now down south, south of the border rather, 2 tornadoes touched down in Northern California. Hi there, happy Wednesday. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Network. And it is January 6th, and for those who follow the Julian calendar, it is Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm Ukrainian. I'll be having a nice meal this evening. Let's talk about the precipitation forecast for Ontario. Not much in the way of anything too extreme. We're looking at an area of high pressure that's really, keeping us dry in Ontario. The only exception is in through extreme southwestern Ontario, where they could see some flurries and perhaps some drizzle, but not much in the way of a sustained event. When we're talking about temperatures, Wednesday afternoon, 2 degrees in Toronto feels like -3. For this time of year, it should be closer to -2, which we're right on. We're bang on in terms of temperatures. And across the board through the GTA, similar temperatures throughout. 2 degrees in Mississauga, 2 degrees in Oakville. So really right around seasonal for this time of year. Now, when we're talking about moisture, not much in the way, as I mentioned, there was just some of that chance of some of those flurries in through extreme southwestern Ontario and through Windsor. You could see that rain snow icon there, but again, not a sustained event by any means. The high pressure really keeping us clear, as I mentioned. Now, Wednesday looks to be a chance to see some of that sunshine peeking through the clouds. Thursday, though, Thursday is the best bet for that sunshine, which is a nice change from the past few days, which has been sort of dreary and muggy. Temperatures, though, getting a little bit cooler as we see this Arctic air dipping down into southern Ontario, even reaching parts of the GTA. But that is not abnormal for this time of year. Overnight, we should be closer to -8. And you can really see that Friday night over into Saturday with that little -8 overnight, which again, as I mentioned, is not abnormal. Heading on to the west coast, though, the return of the rockfish in BC. Hi there, happy Wednesday. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Network. I just want to take a quick second to wish all of those who follow the Julian calendar a happy Christmas Eve. Of course, we're going to be sitting down and having a very good meal tonight, socially distanced and away from our families, unfortunately. But again, Merry Christmas to all of those celebrating. Wednesday afternoon in Toronto, 2 degrees. Feels like -3, which is right on target for seasonal, which should be closer to -2. And that's seen across the board in the GTA with similar temperatures, 2 degrees in Mississauga. Now, when we're talking about a precipitation forecast through Ontario, not much of anything really happening throughout. You see this area of high pressure really protecting Ontario from anything, in terms of accumulations, in terms of snow or rain. There's not much moisture to work with either, just in extreme southwestern Ontario, where they could see the potential for some mixing of rain and snow in through Windsor. But again, for the GTA, we're looking at a clear day. Now, when I say clear, I don't mean clear of cloud cover. However, there is a chance for some of that sunshine to peek through on Wednesday tomorrow, looking like a nicer day for sun. When through the pandemic, people have added some new members to their family. Hi there, happy Wednesday. I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Network. Let's talk about the precipitation forecast for Ontario. Well, not much in the way of anything significant happening. This high pressure really pushing out the chance of any of that snow or rain. Just slightly a chance of that drizzle or snowfall, just flurries through extreme southwestern Ontario in Windsor. But in Toronto, in the GTA, looking fairly clear. Wednesday afternoon, 2 degrees, feels like -3, and we are bang on in terms of seasonal temperatures. It should be closer to -2, which is sort of exactly where we're at. And across the board in the GTA, well, similar temperatures throughout. 2 degrees around in Mississauga, it's 1 degree. So again, right around seasonal for this time of year. When we're talking about cloud cover, though, that's going to be sort of the story for Wednesday, Thursday. Of course, Tuesday looked a little bit more dreary, wet and damp through areas in through southern Ontario, in through the GTA. Wednesday looking like the chance to see that sun peeking through, and Thursday is looking to be the better day to see that. Let's just zoom out a little bit and look at those forecast conditions across Ontario. As I mentioned, in through extreme southwestern Ontario, there's that chance for that rain and snow, but clear for the GTA. Now, it's going to get cooler. We have this Arctic air and it's dipping on down, bringing some cooler temperatures overnight into the GTA. Now, don't be scared. This is normal for this time of year. You can see that here in the 3-day forecast for Toronto, Barrie, Hamilton, and Oshawa overnight. Look at that, just -9, -7 in some areas. Now, south of the border, 2 tornadoes touch down in Northern California. Hi there, I'm Marta Czurylowicz. Thanks for joining me here on the Weather Network. Let's talk about the forecast conditions for the GTA. Well, we are bang on for seasonal temperatures. Should be closer to -2, and we're just hovering above the freezing mark, feeling like closer to -1, -2 in through areas like Mississauga and Toronto. Looking at Toronto specifically, Wednesday afternoon, 2 degrees, feels like -3, as I mentioned, so bang on for temperatures. When we're talking about precipitation, well, there isn't really much happening. I just want to pause off the top here. You can see just the blue coming off into extreme southwestern Ontario. That's where you could potentially see some of that drizzle, some flurries throughout Wednesday, but nothing sustained, nothing prolonged, and nothing that will stick, really. It's this area of high pressure that's pushing everything out and keeping Ontario quite clear in terms of precipitation. Now, as I mentioned, again, in through extreme southwestern Ontario, just that chance of some drizzle and some flurries, 4 degrees, but throughout Ontario, it's looking pretty clear in terms of precipitation. Now, when we're talking about cloud cover, the last few days have been quite gloomy in through the GTA. Tuesday was wet, rainy, damp, and today, fortunately, it's going to be clear. However, not clear in the way of clouds. The sun will be peeking through on Wednesday. However, Thursday is looking to be the better day for seeing some of that sunshine. Now, as we head a little bit later into the week, overnight Friday into Saturday, this purple air, which is cold Arctic air, is going to be making its way down all the way, even reaching the GTA. Now, don't be alarmed. This isn't abnormal for this time of year. Of course, it should be a little bit colder overnight. Look at Friday into Saturday, as I mentioned, just that chance, -8 degrees there. Now, let's head on over to the West Coast where we have the return of the rockfish.